forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and welcome to a new year on the Midnight Black Mass podcast. I am your host, the maniacal minister of the occult, the devil you know, the Rev Dan Wilson, and I want to thank you for joining us here on Volume 6, which spanned almost the entire year of 2015, and we're going to continue it right now into 2016, at least for the foreseeable future. We do have some unfortunate news to announce. A few weeks ago at Empire Wrestling, after we'd recorded our Force Awakens review, which will be your featured segment tonight, just the following Saturday, Andrew Alexander, our normal co-host, was attacked by the White Rose at Empire Wrestling. It was a 3-on-1 beatdown. I'll name names. It was Ryan Vega, KT Hamill, and his brother Keith Hamill, the Chunky Dragon. I can't even begin to tell you what a betrayal that is for two of those guys in particular. Vega, we kind of knew he was a fucking slime ball, let's face it. But the fact that the Double Dragons, the brothers Hamill, who have been mentored by Andrew for many years, they're guys who probably owe more in their career to him than anybody, because those guys were straight up nobodies before Andrew took them under his wing. And he's taken a lot of people under his wing over the years, as have I, and as have many mentor-like figures in this area. Not all of those guys succeed. A lot of them don't put in the effort. So I'll give them their credit. They put in the effort to get to where they are. Absolutely. And would it not been for them putting things in on their end, they wouldn't have succeeded to the level they have. But to do that to Andrew Alexander is just fucking reprehensible to me. And it's just a total betrayal and a backstabbing of everything he's done and taught them, especially Keith, but KT, you too. And Ryan Vega, you got yours coming too, buddy. You just wait. So I knocked 2 of his teeth out, broke his jaw, had to be wired shut. He's now on a liquid diet. So as you can tell, he's not here tonight because he can't speak. It would be a very garbled podcast with him just going, fuck you. I mean, so we don't want that. So I just told him to take off. We have enough content in the can. We've pre-recorded a lot of segments over the last few months. So we have stuff to air. So until he is on the mend, you're going to hear me here in the intro piece for about 10, 15 minutes every week. And I'll give you the rundown of what's going on, be a little bit abbreviated because he's not here to bounce things back and forth off of. But at least you'll have the intro spot here. And then I think hopefully, based on his doctor's prognosis, we'll have enough content to air in between. If not, very possible you could see some guests returning for interviews and things like that. So the train keeps rolling all night long, even if one wheel is bent, mangled, and broken. And so all the best to Andrew Alexander. And I promise you, man, those motherfuckers are going to get what's coming to them. Plain and simple. Might be retired from managing at Empire, might have taken a different job. Hey, it don't have to happen at Empire, pal. It don't have to happen there. If we catch you out anywhere, it's going to be a fight. And, you know, I'm not a tough guy. Andrew's retired. He was formerly a tough guy, but isn't certainly considered that now, especially since he's beat up. But don't forget who we are, and don't forget who you're fucking with. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So in better news, we have Star Wars The Force Awakens official review coming right off of when we saw it on opening night. So these thoughts are very fresh. They're very passionate and a whole lot of fun. So don't you dare miss that. A couple of things to talk about before we get started. I just wanted to send out some condolences real quick to the family of the legendary Tommy Gilbert, as well as the family of the legendary Buddy Wayne. A very terrible couple of weeks for Memphis wrestling legends. Both of those men passed away. Certainly on up there in years, both of them were. They lived fruitful and healthy lives, but, it's always sad to see somebody like that go. And speaking of which, one of my all-time personal heroes and inspirations, and a guy, just because he gave so little of a fuck about anything, Lemmy Kilmister from Motorhead. Ian Lemmy Kilmister passed away at the age of 70, just over the Christmas holiday. Found out he had cancer. Two days later, he was dead. So just brutal. Cancer fucking sucks. So sick of dealing with cancer in 2015 on a personal and a level of people who inspire me. Of course, it's been a rough year all around. We lost Dusty Rhodes, lost Roddy Piper, and so many more. But having Lemmy, he's got a relationship with wrestling, and that's cool. Like, I always thought it was cool that they would bring in Lemmy, but my relationship with him goes well back beyond wrestling. Motorhead was one of those quintessential bands during my teenage years that got me through a lot of hard times, and they were right there blasting the victory march in the best of times. When you're a carny road warrior, like many people in the wrestling business are, there's something about Motorhead that speaks to you. So he definitely touched a lot of guys in the business, and including Triple H, and that's why they got all the pub, and that's all well and good. But if you only know them from that shit, then you need to go and listen to their catalog. Some of the best balls out rock and roll music ever made. It's like essentially you could take Chuck Berry and you turn it into thrash metal, and that's why you have Motorhead. If it wasn't for Motorhead, you'd have no Metallica. You probably wouldn't have the entire thrash genre or speed punk or a lot of stuff that came as a result of Motorhead. So if you're a fan of music, if you're a fan of heavy metal, fan of rock and roll, it's one of those really tragic losses. And again, 70 years old, lived a great life, especially at that pace. You moving that fast, Lemmy would smoke it, sniff it, snort it, drink it, didn't matter. He's always said heroin was the only thing he would never do because he knew too many people that it killed. His health was declining in recent years. He had to switch from drinking Jack Daniels every day to vodka. So, I just watched his documentary a few days before he passed, the 51% motherfucker, 49% son of a bitch. It's a must see if you haven't watched it. Track it down. There's very few people like Lemmy alive anymore. And hopefully we can take a little bit of what we learned from Lemmy and keep making the world an interesting place. Because without people like that, life would be very fucking boring. So rest in peace, Lemmy. Here's to you, man. Thank you for all the tunes. Thank you for all the inspiration. Thank you for all of the heartfelt, driven fucking heavy metal that you gave me and helped me throughout my life. So rest in peace, brother man. Rest in peace and rest in power. And so just, hate to start it off with a couple of bummers like that, but no other great wrestling news to report. I've been tied up with the holidays with the friends and family, but very excited for what's to come in 2016. Glad we're still around. And hey, I am still on the announce crew at Empire Wrestling, but got to keep that axe sharp because you never know, as recent events might dictate, when you might need to pull it back out again. So you can see me on the road. Oh, yes. I'll be in Cordelia, Georgia on January the 9th, managing the Strong Style Psycho Tank. He was scheduled to face Masada for Why We Wrestle in the first round of the Why We Wrestle Heavyweight Championship Tournament. However, Masada took another booking for Ring of Honor, a bigger and better opportunity. And a lot of people say you shouldn't fault him for that. And personally, I don't. But that doesn't mean we're not going to show up on January 9th with a little something to say. Yes, Masada, we respect you, but that's not the end of the story. Tank doesn't like being blown off. So you're going to find out exactly about that coming up on January the 9th. Stay tuned. It's the wrestling business. You'll find out. telephone, telegraph, tele-wrestler. Somebody's talking shit about you. Somebody's going to come tell you. I'm going to tell you on January night, I'm going to talk a little shit about you, Brigham. Old buddy, old pal. I know we worked together a long time ago. Got a lot of respect for you, as I said. But this one's coming down the pike. Tank didn't get called back to why we wrestled at Cornelia, Georgia. The place that made him famous, that made me famous. To get disrespected. So, not sitting too well with him. You're going to hear more about it on January 9th. Find him online on Twitter at Why Do You Wrestle, on Facebook.com/This Is Why We Wrestle. You can find out more online through the social media, and more will be coming down the pike for them as well. Extremely honored. They're going to be putting the Rev on the wall as one of the 4 pillars of wrestling in Cornelia, Georgia. Damn, am I that fucking old? Has it come to this? I'm kidding. Just extremely touched by this. Extremely honored. And it's sort of lit a new fire under my ass. Because sometimes you just think people don't fucking care. You put so much into this over the years and you think that people don't give a shit. And when you see the people that you've helped, that you've been there for, that you have put that effort in for, they do want to recognize, they do want to give back, they do want to appreciate you. Yeah, that fucking means something, especially in this business. So it's a little bit of a fire under my ass. Honored to be joining Jeff G. Bailey, Slim J, and Bill Behrens. 3 men I've worked with, loved and hated many times over the years. It's going to be a grand old night, January 9th in Cornelia, Georgia, for Why We Wrestle Promotions. You definitely don't want to miss that. And of course, if you haven't found out, or if you haven't figured it out yet, last night, if you weren't there at Empire Wrestling, because of Andrew's injury, I have been named interim commissioner. So, Jude Light, Rush, White Rose, anybody else who wants to sling your dick around, I'm slinging one back, boys. And I got the letter of the law on my side, the old checks and balances, dotting the T's and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And so I'm going to be the one making decisions while Andrew's gone, and I'm not as forgiving as he is. So you put your hands on me, you're going to be gone. I've already got it set in stone. So even if you cripple me, it will be done after the fact. Don't worry about it. I'll be there. Empire Wrestling each and every week in Rossville, Georgia. Don't want to miss that. Coming up in March, March the 12th in Hartselle, Alabama at the Hartselle Civic Center. New South Wrestling Promotions returns. Tank is coming back there too. He's got an issue with Dump Sanders. This guy claims to be the biggest and baddest guy on the block in New South. And, well, nobody gets away with saying that when you're in the same room with Tank. Have you not figured that out yet? You're going to find out. March the 12th, Hartselle, Alabama, New South. Find him online at Twitter, at New South. Find him on Facebook, New South Wrestling. Find Empire PW on Twitter, Facebook.com/Empire Wrestling. I'm going to be all up in your grill up in the next few months. The Rev is getting back out there with the Strong Style Psycho Tank, and we're raising a little hell. And at Empire Wrestling, like I said, I'll be calling some shots and making sure that everything goes according to the playbook while Andrew Alexander is out, and I'll be doing my damnedest to do a good job and make him proud. So, take a little quick commercial break. We'll be right back at you with the Star Wars Force Awakens review officially from the Midnight Black Mass. Don't go anywhere.
Whether you're having an autograph session, personal appearance, or live event, we got just the person you need to contact for all of those needs. SBI Bookings is home of some of the best stars in the wrestling industry today. They provide you with the best talent this business has to offer, from Kevin Nash, Larry Zbyszko, Scott Steiner, and many, many more. So who will you contact next time you're planning an event? The men of SBI Bookings. Check them out at sbibookings.com.
Okay, so very special time in the program of what this will be airing on the final Midnight Black Mass of 2015, and I can't think of a better way to go out, Andrew, fresh off of seeing a life-changing experience, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and that's what we're dedicating this entire main segment to tonight. Overall thoughts.
Well, I mean, I know we're going to get into it, but yeah, we just left the theater. Separately, we went to different theaters, but I went ahead and opted not to go and see Star Wars. I actually watched Krampus.
Oh, really? And?
I'm just kidding, man. I couldn't pass up. I watched Sisters, starring Tina Fey, Amy Poehler.
That really looks hilarious, actually. Like, to be, to not bust balls on your joke, but that movie looks funny as fuck to me.
Yeah, I do want to see that movie, but no, of course not. I can't believe. I bet those movies made like $12 this weekend. I saw Star Wars, but before we jump into it, real quick, I actually did see Krampus because you told me. Now, did you tell me you saw it or you heard?
No, I said I heard.
Okay, well, here's the thing. You heard what? You heard it was a good horror movie and a good Christmas movie?
Yes.
Well, I want you to go back to whoever told you that and let them know that they are fucking liars, because that movie was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen in a theater in my life.
Oh, I don't believe it, man.
No, I've seen worse movies. I just can't think of them, and I can't think of seeing one in a theater. It was laughably bad, so it was enjoyable because of how bad parts of it were. And there were some funny parts, but I don't think it's meant to be a comedy. So that right there tells you something. But it's got good casting, and there's like just funny little lines here and there. But no, it is not a good movie. It's not. And the Christmas moral, appreciate your family at Christmas time or bad shit happens. Yeah, no shit. No shit. We learn that moral every year. Appreciate your family. Whoop-de-fucking-do. It was a horrible movie, and I highly suggest going to see Sisters or going to see Star Wars for a second time. Do not spend money on Krampus. At least wait for the red box so you only feel ripped off $1.
Man, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen it, but like I'm a really big fan of that director and his style of horror. So I would just be surprised if I didn't like it. But I mean, I'll take your word for it until I see it. So it's like I got to go on, right?
Okay, well, we'll see. Maybe we can have a good, fun discussion about that if you break down and go see it. But I suggest seeing Star Wars again. So, with that being said, yes, Star Wars is worth a second viewing because that shit was awesome. Would you say it lived up to the hype?
I'd say it exceeded the hype.
I agree. I don't think I know there was a lot of hype, but I mean, it just lived up to it. There wasn't, and maybe with 2-3 more viewings, maybe you pick out little nitpicky things. And I mean, obviously there's everyone's going to have opinions about, they shouldn't have done this, they should have done this, anything like that. But there wasn't bad parts. Like, it was just a good, fun movie. I think you could have went in knowing nothing about Star Wars and enjoyed it. I think if you were the most hardcore Star Wars fan, you would enjoy it. I mean, it was just, it was badass, start to finish.
The magic of youth, the spirit of adventure, making you feel like you're a small child again, and capturing that excitement that only those first movies really did for me as a kid. I mean, that's the feeling. I wanted to suspend disbelief. I wanted to go in there and not want to try to pick it apart while I was watching it, which the prequels were hard not to do. But God damn it, I was so impressed. And as you had a little brief pre-Star Wars viewing rant, I have one as well. A lot of people bitching and complaining. Not a lot. I mean, the vast minority, but, they speak loudly, that they're tired of hearing about Star Wars, and they don't understand it, or the cool people who are like, I've never even seen Star Wars. I don't get what the hype's about. Like, good for fucking you. But I bet I have to listen to you or watch you post a fucking play-by-play of the goddamn football game of the team you're fucking rooting for every week on my fucking Facebook feed and Twitter, and I don't give a goddamn about that. I don't give a flying fucking reindeer fuck about it, okay? And I don't bitch. I don't complain because I understand a lot of people like that. So get the fuck over it. the team that you call your team that you have no investment in and you don't fucking play for, and the fucking shit that you make fun of nerd for liking Star Wars when you're checking your goddamn fantasy fucking football app. So, I'm like, I got plenty of buddies that are way down with the football. I even like to have a beer with the guys and watch a football game, even though I don't follow it and I'm not really into it. It's not really my thing. But I don't have anything against it. But the thing is, if you don't like Star Wars, shut the fuck up about it. This is our time. We waited fucking 30 years for this victory, and it tastes so fucking sweet.
Oh, very well said. I couldn't agree more. And I think the minority of people feel that way about Star Wars. I mean, and like I've said, I've said to people in passing and people asking me about the movie and if they should see it and just all this stuff. And I've actually I've opened up a couple people I know to, like, I've loaned out my original trilogy Blu-rays, and I did tell them that there's a lot of changes from the original, but since you don't know that, you'll enjoy it. But I just think that you don't have to be obsessed with Star Wars. I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with Star Wars. I have some Star Wars merch. It's not my biggest, it's not my biggest love. I lean more towards, most of my life, more towards wrestling stuff and now Marvel Comics and a lot of the comic movies and television shows. That's kind of my first love these days, but I'm definitely a big fan of Star Wars. But you don't have to be obsessed with it. But if you see those movies and you just shit on them and don't like them, I can't trust your opinion on anything. That's the type of person that probably loves Krampus, because I can't enjoy their opinion. Because if you see the original trilogy and don't at least walk away saying, oh, those were good, yeah, I like them, I'm not going to watch them once a year. I'm not going to buy action figures or maybe not even go see Star Wars on opening night and fight the crowds. But if you're like, those suck, I can't talk to you about anything. I can't believe your opinion about the world, because they're just so good. They're fun. They're good stories. There's something for everybody in them. So I think it's the minority of people that just hate on Star Wars. And like you've said, it's people that have never even fucking seen it. There's always going to be people that hate on shit, and that's those people. They just haven't seen it, and they think, oh, it's nerdy space shit, so it's beneath them, so they don't want to fucking give it a chance. But fuck them.
And then on the other side of the coin, you have the Uber fans who are too cool for school, who, like, I just didn't like it. It was derivative. And by the way, folks, massive, massive, massive fucking spoilers coming in this episode of the show. So if you have not seen the movie, we appreciate you supporting the show, but do not listen to this episode. Tune out now. Turn it off. Turn it off now. No, I know you're still waiting. You're fumbling around in your fucking car. I know you're fucking fumbling around with your goddamn phone. No, get up, turn it off now. Turn it off. Okay. Now that we're rid of those people, massive fucking spoilers. People complained that it was derivative of the original trilogy in many ways, specifically Star Wars, as I like to call it, the 1977 film, but later renamed Episode 4, A New Hope. People said, there was way too many similarities to that, and it was just a rip-off of that. It's not a fucking rip-off, jackasses. It's a fucking tribute. It's something, a callback. It's total fan service. I mean, I'd say the one criticism that you might could have, and it's not even a bad criticism of the movie, is that it was just like fan service to a sickening level. Like, they went to every degree possible to make sure that if you were a fucking fan, that you got the Star Wars movie that you fucking wanted. If you were disappointed by the prequels, then they wanted to make sure that this was the movie for you.
Yeah, that's the only thing I haven't seen people saying that it's bad or anything, but the only thing I have heard is people saying that it is very similar to the original, which I don't have a problem with. I think it's fine, because I didn't have to read people's thoughts on that to think that. As I was watching it, I was like, oh, that's very similar to the original. Oh, there's another thing. Okay, so this is kind of taking pieces and kind of putting the new span and redoing it. And just a guess, and we'll get into it with some spoilers, I suspect that there will be parts of Episode 8 that mirror Empire Strikes Back, and I don't mind that. It's a sequel. It's obviously playing off that trilogy. I don't mind the similarities, and when you're taking from one of the best movies ever, best stories, best series of movies, big deal. I would much rather have that than things they try to do with the prequels. And I know there's hate for the prequels. Some of it I understand. Some of it I don't understand as much. But the thing is I watched episode 1 for some reason. I can't even remember why, but I remember I watched it. It came out on video, and I rented it, and I fell asleep during it. At the age of probably, I think, around 16, episode 1, I fell asleep. I rewatched it and was instantly like, what the fuck is this? So it's not people just being snooty and hating on the prequels. There were big problems with those movies, especially the first one. And there was a little bit of concern. I didn't really have the concern, but I was in the back of my mind. I was like, God, what if this movie sucks? What if they just make bad calls? And they didn't. Maybe they played it safe by using some of the original stuff. But hey, that's fucking fine because the movie turned out to be a hit. I mean, I would probably have to say it's. I'm sure it's probably the best movie I've seen this year.
Oh, I'd say without a doubt it's the best movie I've seen this year, and there's been some good ones, but I mean, like no movie was like a religious experience for me like that, it literally brought tears to my eyes. I was so fucking happy that, and it just, because it means a lot to me. It just, the nostalgia factor, going back to being a small kid and discovering that shit, and all the way up to becoming a nerdy teenager and being like so fucking obsessed with it, and reading all the expanded universe novels and buying all the fucking action figures and reading all the comics and everything else, and then the prequels happened, and I, for the longest time, defended them. I, for the longest time, defended those movies because I didn't want them to suck. I wanted to love them. But, when you find, and as each of them came out, I enjoyed them during the single experience of the viewing. What the problem came for me was later when you tried to watch them in the context of how you're finally supposed to watch them 1 through 6. The prequels really make a lot of the cool shit from the original trilogy. Like, they try to over-explain it. The Force doesn't need to be explained. Midichlorians, what the fuck is that? Like, there's no need to explain the Force. It's a mystical energy. We accept that. You don't need an explanation. It certainly takes a lot of the specialness out of the people who learn to use it. It's like, oh, so if you're born with a certain number of cells in your blood, then you're a Jedi, and anybody else is fucked. It takes that whole, like, putting yourself in the role of Luke Skywalker aspect out of it. So that's where my issue with the prequels definitely comes in, is when you see them in retrospect. There are things about them that are very good, but there are things about them that are very bad as well, and just like trying to over-explain shit in the Star Wars universe that didn't need to be explained.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I don't think, again, that's something that'll come from more viewings, but I don't think there was a lot of that going on in this movie. It was simple enough. It was to the point. It played off the original trilogy, which it should have because it was a sequel. And they just did a great job with it. Exciting stuff, and like you said, the opening, and I wasn't the only one. The crowd's just popping. When you go to a theater and the crowd pops, that's a pretty good indicator. But the opening sequence and then some of the stuff, people are just, it took them back. And the only time I experienced that because I saw episode 2 and 3 in theaters, and when Vader, obviously becomes Darth Vader, that's the only time that happened in those movies in the theater.
And then he said, no, and people were like,
no.
Ah.
Yeah. They just did a great job. I think it looked, it didn't look too advanced. Like, it had a similar look to the original trilogy. I mean, obviously there was stuff that looked better if you broke it down, graphics wise and things such as that. But the sets and the ships, the planets, they all felt like they mixed in well with that original trilogy, as opposed to the prequels that looked much better than quote unquote better than the original trilogy, which didn't really make sense because they took place beforehand. They did a good job there, and then the characters. I didn't know how to put it when I was watching it, but I was like, even as the movie's going on, I'm like, man, they've done such a great job that Rey, I genuinely care about Rey already. Like, I like her. I want to see what happens. I want to see where this goes. Finn, not as much as Rey, but definitely that same thing where it's like, okay, this is a good dude. I want to know why he's made this decision, and why is he, what's his backstory, and what role will he play in the future. I'm interested in that. The prequels, very, 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 very little of that. None to that degree. None to the degree of Rey, where I genuinely cared and genuinely liked her and was interested in her. Nobody, not even Mace Windu, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who is probably the best new addition, character-wise, in those prequels. None of those had those. And then a lady I know who was going to see it but saw it after me asked me, she said, no spoilers, she's just like, were they good? I heard the character development was well done. And like, that's what the words I was looking for, character development. Yes, it was well done, because I cared about those characters, definitely more so than the prequel movies.
Yeah, and the movie's success to me really hinged on whether or not the new characters got over, because it's very much a passing of the torch movie. You have the older characters in supporting roles in this movie, and the focus and the spotlight is on the new characters. So if this was wrestling, the new characters would have gotten killed off, or at the minimum, they would have had to had the fucking help of the old characters to solve the problem, And while they did have the help, like, they didn't solve the problem for them. You know what I mean? So it was like they did a great job of passing the torch and saying that, yes, these people are important. Rey is America's new sweetheart, or the world's new sweetheart, the galaxy, if you will, new sweetheart. And because she's a take no shit woman, she's very fully flushed out. Like, she has a full story, but there's a lot of mystery there, and you want to know more. And that's one of the major question marks: is who is Rey? She's clearly related to somebody. Kylo Ren, the villain, knows of her and is seemingly familiar with her. The big rumor, of course, is that she is Luke Skywalker's daughter. Very hard to dispel that if you've seen the movie. I think that's definitely, if I'm a betting man, where I'm going with that. And we'll talk about that more in a second. But then also you mentioned Finn, and what a great supporting, almost the Han Solo of the film. But totally different, because he was a fuck-up like Han Solo was, a smuggler, a pirate. But Finn was not that. Finn was a stormtrooper. A stormtrooper that had a moral code that just he couldn't get behind the killing and the slaughtering that was involved in being a hardened soldier for no longer the Empire. The Empire fell at the Battle of is it Jakku?
Yeah, Jakku.
Jakku, yeah, the Battle of Jakku. The Empire fell, and I want to know way more about that. They didn't give us hardly any, so I'm really excited to find out what happened there. But the First Order was born out of the ashes of the Empire. The rebellion no longer needed to exist because a new republic was put in place. And however, Princess Leia started her own band of warriors called the Resistance to keep an eye on this First Order who's emerging out of the ashes of the Empire, led by Kylo Ren, another supporting character carrying the new villain mantle. And he's a villain you care about. He's everything that Hayden Christensen should have been in the role of scorned youth Anakin Skywalker, in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about that. That's a good observation. I liked him as a villain, for sure. I thought he had a cool presence. He sounded very menacing and very cool. Excuse me. He was very cold, very callous. That changes a little bit as the movie goes on. Somewhat. He's still that character. And obviously, we can go ahead and talk about that. It is revealed that he's Han Solo and Princess Leia's son, which was probably the strongest despite them warning us to believe that Luke Skywalker had joined the dark side, that was probably the safest bet that most people kind of assumed, and we were right. He's a different villain, though, whereas Darth Vader, things are going wrong. He's very cool, calm, and collective, even though he will fuck you up if he chooses to. Kylo Ren throws a lot of temper tantrums and has a lot of rage that he lets out. So that's going to be interesting to see, because that's definitely different than what we're used to seeing in these movies. I hope he remains this stone cold villain, because already there's the theory online that he is actually trying to help the Jedi eliminate the dark side once and for all. I don't believe the theory. I think it's a bit of a stretch, and I hope it's not true, because I didn't find there to be really redeeming qualities about him, and I mean that in a good way, as he was a good villain to me. Where Darth Vader, and obviously this is one movie in, and we had Darth Vader for 3 originally, you grow to love him, and he is an anti-hero. But this guy, we can go ahead and talk about it or bring it up. He kills Han Solo, very cold, and it's very sad. It's well done. It's not quite as emotional as I kind of thought it would be, because that's something else that I think we all believed would happen. It is well done. It's well shot. It's well played up. The suspense is there. My heart was racing, even though I knew it was going to happen. You still don't know how or why or what's going to be said, and my heart was just beating out of my chest when it happened. But this guy, I just don't want to ever be in a position to where I like him like a Darth Vader. I just hope he remains this evil son of a bitch throughout the whole series.
I mean, that's what they had to push him over the edge. I think the fan theory is ridiculous, because there was a fan theory that Luke Skywalker was Kylo Ren as well. So don't put a lot of stock in that. They're fun to talk about, fun to theorize on. Certainly, I'm not shitting on the people that came up with that, but I'm just saying, like, they wouldn't have had him turn the corner like that to such a degree, because all throughout the movie you can tell he's battling parts of the light that are shown to him. So the light side of the Force is calling to him. He's not a completely turned, not officially a Sith, because the Sith are allegedly dead, but that's what he's trying to become. He's very much an apprentice of Supreme Leader Snoke, who is played magnificently by Andy Serkis of Planet of the Apes and Lord of the Rings fame, the greatest, motion capture villain probably of all time. And so great character. He's projected as this gigantic thing, but, I'm sure he's not really that big, because it's like the classic hologram. It's just more high tech now because we're further along in the future. So some of their technology has increased. I like that spin on things. I like the sleeker, updated stormtroopers. Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones, fantastic as Captain Phasma. Hope to see more of her in the upcoming movies. It was implied that she was thrown into a trash compactor, but we never saw her die on screen, so hopefully she got out.
Yeah, I'm sure she did.
But dude, I was just the whole Kylo Ren thing was so just fascinating to me. And he takes off the mask and he's this pretty boy, this goofy looking motherfucker to a degree. You see he's very young.
I don't know if I'd say pretty boy. I mean, he's not scarred up or anything, but he's a very unfortunate looking motherfucker. I had 2 thoughts instantly. I was like, wow, what an ugly prick. He looks like me at 17.
He's an it boy right now, surprisingly. That's Adam Driver of Girls fame, and he's a hot Hollywood property at the moment, surprisingly. I didn't even really know what the guy looked like, and so when he took off his mask, it was as much a surprise to me as it was anybody. And but, in the big fight with Rey at the end, of course, he got fucked up. And I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more of him becoming more like Vader, as he so wants to be like his hero. and Vader's his grandfather, of course, and so he sort of worships at the altar of Vader. He's like very much a Vader mimic. He wants to be like Vader, and they're trying to bring back the Sith and the dark side, but they're not back yet. So you see a very young in the dark side Kylo Ren, and I'm very excited to see like what his journey is. But definitely, the killing of Han Solo was the moment where he turned the corner and was like, okay, now he's stepping it up to another level, and that's how you get that fucking heat, man.
Yeah, but and he's extremely powerful. I mean, he seems. I don't know how to describe it. But I mean, he's a lot more powerful than guys we've seen in these movies, and I don't want to. He's not more powerful than Darth Vader, but he seems to maybe use it because, like I said, he's not that calm character that just like, oh, choke you out. I mean, he's force pushing the shit out of people and reading their minds and all this shit that we're kind of not used to seeing.
Well, and you got to think, the bloodline, man. You got Leia, you got Vader. Han Solo was not force sensitive, but Leia was. She just never trained in the Force. But, there's many moments in the movies where she gets like a premonition and shit. She's force sensitive. And then of course, you've got Vader. So, like, he's got like double the blood, and so I think he's just got this raw force power that he doesn't have control of because he's so young in the dark side.
Yeah, definitely. But, I mean, he's going to be I'm definitely glad they didn't kill him off. I was kind of worried for a second. I thought surely they wouldn't. But, they killed Darth Maul in the first film. And I was hoping that wouldn't happen. And luckily it didn't. So he'll be I could see him being through, whatever they're planning to do. I just assume I'm looking at another trilogy of 7, 8, 9. I kind of assume he'll be around for all of that.
Sadly, according to Disney, we won't live to see all of the Star Wars movies they have planned.
What do you mean? They're planning a ton?
They're planning a Star Wars movie a year in perpetuity.
Oh, okay. Well, as far
now, let me clarify that real quick before I'm going to cut you off. But let me clarify that real quick. What they mean by that is it's not a trilogy movie every year. Every 2 to 3 years, we'll get those. So this next year, we're getting Rogue One, which is going to be a war story. They're calling it Saving Private Ryan in Space. It's going to be about the rebel soldiers who risked their lives to obtain the Death Star. But you're going to get the whole backstory of how they got the Death Star plan. A brutal, like, gritty war movie with a lot of blood and guts, apparently, is what that one's going to be. And then they've got a Han Solo prequel movie set up, a Boba Fett solo movie. They've got shit in between for years to come. And then, of course, like Episode 8 will come out, and then Episode 9 a few years after that. So, yeah, that's what the model is.
Yeah, I've heard of that, and that's smart, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Hopefully, they'll all be pretty good quality, but like you said, they'll be different. They'll be different from the trilogy movies. So that's cool, and I mean, I don't blame them. They've got the means, and if I own the shit, I'd be trying to pump out that money, make that money too. But the point is I think he'll be around for quite a while, and along with pretty much all of these new characters they introduced. I thought BB-8 was cool. It's still no R2-D2, but definitely went into it. I was like, man, fuck a BB-8. He ain't no R2-D2, but he quickly just makes you like him, and he's awesome in the movie and has some great fun parts. But again, there's only one droid. But a very, very cool character there.
Oh man, I love BB-8. I thought he was so funny and charming and fucking. R2-D2 and him had that little like lovers dance moment there at the end. You think they're gonna fuck?
Yeah. But
and
the
BB-8
interaction with Finn and BB-8, you know, kind of when the movie's getting going, is just is so funny. It's so awesome. Yeah, definitely love that shit. And then your characters they brought back. I mean, Chewbacca was awesome. Han Solo obviously was great. I mean, just fucking badass. Their roles. And then, you know, like you mentioned, kind of a passing the torch. Obviously, Han Solo was killed in the movie, and it's a big deal. It was kind of the biggest single thing coming out of the movie, and who knows what will happen from that, because also there's the rumor that Rey is Han and Leia's daughter, that they have twins, but I'm leaning more towards the Luke Skywalker theory. And I mean, I know the Jedis aren't supposed to mess around with women, but the Skywalkers have a weakness for that puss. We've seen that before.
Oh yes. And yeah, like that comes from the old expanded universe, which is no longer considered canon, but it is part of what's called Star Wars Legends canon. So those are stories that are allegedly passed down through generations, but they're not verified as true, quote unquote. But the expanded universe was a series of novels, particularly by Timothy Zahn in the 90s, that came out that they were the follow-up to Return of the Jedi. And in those, Luke, or rather Han and Leia, had the Jedi twins. They had a boy and a girl, and their names were different. Jason Solo was the boy, and I can't remember what the girl's name was, but it was, you know, she ended up killing him and shit. I don't think that's the case because of, like, the way Leia didn't even mention, like, she would know if she fucking birthed a child, you know, like she... Yeah. Like she didn't sell it at all, so you know, like without Leia selling it, but I don't think it's at all theirs. You know, Han might be one to be more coy about it because I'm sure he's got a lot of illegitimate children throughout the galaxy. But you know, Leia
and I think they want us to. I think they want us to kind of think that, because when Rey and Han instantly connect. That there's even the scene when Kylo Ren's reading her mind and says, "You see Han as the father you've had never had." That there's little things where I think they want us to believe that she's their daughter, just like they wanted us to believe from the trailers that Luke joined the dark side. So, and bravo to them. Good. They should try to throw us off the scent a little bit. But I'm going with the theory that it's Luke's daughter. So, which brings me back to why I said I think Episode 8 will mirror Empire a little bit, and you'll have that reveal of Rey, I am your father.
Yeah, but in a positive way, at least this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so many unanswered questions for Episode 8. Like, there's so much I want to know. You know, of course, what is the relationship with Rey? What's going to happen to Finn? Like, how are these characters going to evolve? What's going to happen with the First Order? Are they going to rise like the Empire? Is the Rebellion going to step up? Where the fuck is Lando Calrissian? Was not at all in the movie. Very disappointed by that, actually. And, you know, Billy D. Williams isn't getting any younger, so I just hope that he makes an appearance in Episode 8.
Man, fuck Lando Calrissian. Uncle Tom... I'm quoting Chasing Amy, of course. I agree. I was wondering if Lando would pop up for a second, but I would not be surprised to see him come up in a role, you know, hopefully in Episode 8. Like you said, not getting any younger, but I'm sure the filming on that. I mean, I'm not thinking it's going to start any moment. Maybe this next year, but maybe the following year. It can't be that far away.
Episode 8 is 2017, so it'll be going into filming probably like any day now.
Okay, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if we could see him. And I mean, I don't know about any other. That probably covers kind of all the major characters, at least that I can think of right offhand. But
would be nice to see like the ghost Obi-Wan or Yoda pop up.
Yeah, that would be cool. I kind of thought of that about Yoda. As long as it fits the story and makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know if you've read some of the Easter eggs, but when Rey touches Luke's original lightsaber, and quick aside, like, I really want to know how the fuck that got from Bespin to the fucking, the other planet they went to, where it was in some bar in the fucking basement.
Yeah, and when they turn it on, like, your mind's processing this stuff so quickly, I was like, because they mentioned it, and I was like, man, what the fuck? I thought that's supposed to be a green lightsaber. Oh, shit, that's the one from where he got his hand cut off. How the fuck did they find that?
Yeah, definitely a huge question surrounding that.
Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing about that, when she touches the lightsaber, there's some voices you can hear, and there's like a ton of things that's shown in this little like scene that she gets this vision. And so I was reading some of the Easter eggs where it was broken down and some of the cameos that came out. How fucking awesome is this, right? How fucking awesome is this? So they've got the first cameo is Alec Guinness. They took a clip of him saying afraid and cut it to say Ray. And then they got Ewan McGregor to fucking finish the rest of the line. And Yoda is in there in the background too, and very faintly, but they got Frank Oz himself to come in and record new audio. So Obi-Wan and Yoda did appear in the movie, if only in verbal form.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that scene is so quick. I was like, trying not to blink. I was like, oh shit, what's she seeing? What's going on? So that's one I'll definitely be paying attention to big time on a second viewing. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do something as far as a flashback. And obviously Luke will have a bigger role in episode 8. As the movie was going along, I kind of realized, I was like, okay, Luke Skywalker is going to be in this movie for about 5 seconds, which he turns out to, it's probably about 25 seconds, but he doesn't even say a word, which is fine. He was present for the movie, even though he wasn't in the movie. There's so much mention, and they're looking for him and things such as that. And I know one thing I saw on the internet where people bitching is like, why is all this shit happening and Han's getting killed and Luke's just out somewhere hiding? I mean, fuck, I don't know. I don't have answers for that. Luke knows what he's doing. No, leave him the hell alone.
Yeah, I imagine we'll get those in episode 8. More answers. Yeah. What was Luke doing during this time? Why was he in hiding? Why didn't he take the lightsaber from Rey at the end? Was he just mad at her because he had a mechanical hand? He's like, what? Bring it to me. Fuck.
Yeah.
I have a robot hand.
I mean, he was probably like, how the fuck did y'all find that shit? Or he might have been like, man, I'm enjoying my vacation. I'm retired, and I got this little bitch that I pawned off on some desert planet coming back. Shit. Been growing a sweet-ass beard.
The big finale with his sweet beard was that Luke finally was discovered by Rey. And, you know, the big implication there, of course, is that somehow she's Luke's daughter. Her whole story mirrors him throughout the movie. You know, she's stuck on this deserted planet in the desert. You know, so it very much is a callback to all of that. Possibly the fan favorite scene, I think, at this point, hard to argue, is after Han Solo gets killed. Of course, Chewbacca loses his fucking shit and just slaughters about 50 fucking stormtroopers, and it's pretty goddamn awesome. And the fucking howl he lets out there will fucking make the hair on your arms literally stand up.
Yeah, the stormtroopers have gotten a little bit more well-trained in this movie. Not much, but they at least hit a couple targets. But they're a little bit better than the stormtroopers of old. What about the scene when the Millennium Falcon's revealed? How well was that shit done? Like, catch you up by surprise out of nowhere. Like, my jaw dropped. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, it was one of those moments where you just could not withhold the ear-to-ear grin. You know, it was just pure joy and childhood bliss.
Yeah, that shit was so well done. And I kind of saw Han and Chewbacca. I kind of thought that was when they appeared. That was how they were appearing, but it was still very well done. And I kind of thought, I was like, okay, Princess Leia is about to enter the scene here, but the Millennium Falcon, it just came so quick, and so it was just so perfectly done that, yeah, you're right, I was just grinning so huge. I was like, oh shit, that's so awesome. And the way they set it up, just fucking beautiful. And I think a lot of things I haven't seen mentioned, but when Han is on the bridge with Kylo Ren, and he kind of makes you, he's implying that he wants to be on the light side, and things such as that, the light side of the Force, and that cloud comes over and the sun's finally blocked out and it gets really dark, and then that's when it's done. Like, it was subtle, but not so subtle that you wouldn't catch it, and I just thought it was fucking just perfect storytelling and a perfect scene in the movie.
Yeah, old Ben Solo. As we find out his name is obviously named after Obi-Wan. Oh God, I can't believe we have to wait 2 years for this fucking next one. I'm so pumped. Like, God damn it.
It sucks because the original trilogy, you you just got to watch. And then the new trilogy, I saw episode 2 in the theater, and when it ended, I was like, oh, man, I got to wait. And Vader's coming, so you want to see it. But even then, it just wasn't like this. When this was over, I was like, fuck, it's going to be years.
Yeah. There was a much larger gap between the original movies than there will be for these. So at least, we don't have to wait that length of time. Imagine back in the 80s, by the time I first saw Star Wars, it was probably, the first time I saw Star Wars would have been on when they aired it on Christmas on CBS in 1983. And then Empire Strikes Back was out on video and Showtime by 84. And, I was watching that then, and then Return of the Jedi came out. I think Return of the Jedi came out in 83. So, they were all out for a while, but they eventually made their way to home video and shit. But you got to watch them pretty quickly in succession as a kid. And, if you're our age, but can you imagine having to wait that fucking long in between?
Yeah, and luckily we get some of these movies to talk about, because that's like the Marvel movies. It's like, oh man, it sucks, I got to wait. But there's always, it's like a 6-month gap, and you get something to continue that story that they, that they've been doing and been telling. You have to wait a while for the big ones, for the Avengers, but you're getting those huge pieces in between. With this, even though we're getting a Star Wars movie, it's a completely different situation. So it is just a 2-year wait of, man, I just anticipating. But that they did a badass job of wanting to bring you back, and I'm sure that the next one's going to make even more fucking money.
Absolutely. So with this, the final episode of 2015, we bid you good night, and we thank you for a great year here on the Midnight Black Mass. For Andrew Alexander, I am the Reverend Dan Wilson. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold, and may the Force be with you always. Good night.
This has been a production of the Potty Humor Network. Find us online at youtube.com/Potty Humor, or subscribe to us weekly and never miss an episode by searching Potty Humor on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you for listening, and good night.